All right, friends, welcome back to the show. This is fun. We're in the Tree Haus together. Woo! We're sitting on the couch. My dear friend Sarah Tacy is here. Hi.
Hi.
We're
It's
here.
so good to be here.
So good to have you.
Yeah.
So let's bring everybody in. So we have known each other for, I have absolutely no idea, a long time.
I can calculate this by Ruby's age. So probably 7 years.
7 years?
Yes.
Okay.
7 years.
7 years. And the fact that you live in Maine, though, which is right up the road from where I live in New Hampshire, it feels like we've just been in community for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so good.
We're in community, and I feel like with the way that life often goes and all of the various things that appear and show up with calendars, we don't see each other all that often.
I know.
And it's so easy to kind of feel into your field and to celebrate you and to kind of watch from afar. But I think there was also that point where like, let's have a day together.
Let's do it.
Which
together.
also ended up that we get to do this podcast together. But
yeah,
just time to also drop in and go deep.
Go deep.
See what's real.
See what's real. So one of the things that I think is so special about the timing of this conversation actually is that this conversation is going to be happening on the Homeward podcast. So there's a big transition that's happened. You're going to be a few weeks into Homeward. And so I want to start before we get into talking about all of the magic and all of what you're doing and just how it relates and your wisdom and everything that's you. To what is your Homeward practice? How do you come homeward?
Yeah. I would love for you first to describe to me what Homeward means to you, why you rebranded your podcast, and what it stands for in you. And as I get that vibe, I know that parts of me are going to be like, oh my God, me here, there. Like it's going to weave together something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even as you said, this is the beginning of Homeward. I was like, what is that? Tell me. Yeah. Tell me about Homeward.
I know. So she doesn't even know this, guys. Like, I didn't even tell her this. I was like, you just come be on the podcast. She's like, okay, whatever podcast you're doing, I'm there for
I'm
it.
here.
So Homeward. So a few months ago, I hosted a retreat and I just had this full bodied knowing it was supposed to be called the Homeward Retreat. And what that really encapsulated for me is just the way that I truly believe that in order to experience the fullness of ourselves and what we really want for our lives, including the way we show up in our businesses, it has to be a homeward journey. And, for most of us, we live life sort of wayward. And ultimately it brings us homeward. But I think there's this power in naming it and saying, okay. And the second episode that released on Homeward was with my dear mentor, Mark Nepo. And at the end of the conversation, he started asking me or sort of like giving me some coaching around this idea of like my going homeward practice and communing with myself and meeting the words as they want to come through, as you know that I'm a poet, and giving myself space to come homeward every single day. And so to me, it has all of these sort of like meanings that are braided together. But I think that the only way that we can really feel as rooted as we want to feel and as at peace as we want to feel in all of the different facets of our life, it has to have this spirit of coming homeward within it. Yeah.
I love that. And so then what does it mean to me to come homeward? I believe my last newsletter that went out was, what does it mean to come home to your body?
It literally said that. I read it. And I was like, this is so perfect.
And as are these micro moments throughout the day. It's not necessarily one seated practice or one moment at the beginning of the day. It is the micro moments of pausing, of tuning into myself and saying, is this true? Is this aligned? Is this accurate? What would I do now? And so even within my work, I can find that when I'm in what might be a trauma strategy, which means something that really helped me find success and independence at some point and a sense of safety, but wasn't necessarily from a generative field, something that really uses a lot of energy in hopes of like surviving and making it.
Mm-hmm.
I get to tune in and go, oh, wait, I can pause. I can do something that feels good to my body, for my body in this moment. And then the way that I perceive everything else in life changes. So, for example, my work, now that I am having this, right, I have this launch coming up and it's something I'm so excited about. And the timelines feel really real. And I can say the to-do list is so real. But if I take time to come homeward and tend to my body in the process, then the things that felt overwhelming suddenly feel exciting and doable. And I also get to really see what parts I can put down, what parts aren't real, what things I don't actually need to do. And as I do that, what I've been finding is that when I put things down with non-attachment, it's not unusual that other people in my life pick it up not for me, but something that's generative for them. And then I get to engage in it. I don't know if that makes sense. Like this podcast, for example.
Right.
A few months ago, I was like, I think I want to start doing my podcast in person. But right now, I'm so focused on what it means to prepare for this launch that I could say, I can put this down for now. And you said, hey, why don't we do this in person? Sweet.
Yeah.
But anyway, coming homeward, it just helps me stay in alignment. And one of the newsletters that's going out to a very specific group on my list, it's a pre-sale opportunity. And I got to sit in it again of like reaching from a trauma field. I hate to like overuse the trauma, but that is a phrase from a certain map that I orient to, from that place of like, I have to get sales and I have to figure out what is their pain point and I have to write. And when I sit and I come back to myself and I sit in the generative field, and then I imagine sitting into the generative field of the person who says yes when they're in their health. And then it's so beautiful. Yeah. Like the writing changes because then I realize it's not victim savior. It's just, oh, I'm reaching out right now to a lifelong learner who is really into where science meets soul. And this is where we come together. And I don't need to fix them. And what a freaking relief. And that realization comes from me pausing and moving away from what I've been like, this is how you write a sales newsletter, to what is true for me? What is the energy I want to write from? And what energy do I want, like the person who says yes, if they're in their healthiest, most true homeward form? That's who I would. Does that make sense?
100%.
Right. And so it's like over and over again, I get to tune in and my life is becoming more and more magical. And this idea of polish there, shine here, it's as I continue the practice of coming homeward, these side effects of beautiful opportunities, more laughter, more silliness are showing up. That's something I couldn't create with effort, but through the practice of, is this true now? What feels right now? And just kind of continually staying curious and questioning and tuning in.
So good. So good. And what is especially exciting for me as a business coach is what you're talking about here. So it's how we bring this notion of what that homeward practice, which has a real energetic in it for you.
Yes.
What it's like to take that and then bring that to the work we're doing in our businesses. Because I think that we can sometimes have this sort of strange like exceptionalism around it or like exclusion, like, oh, but I can't, when I'm writing a marketing email, it has to be like this. Like there's a posture that we get into around business. And I think there's been, you've been around these business streets for a long time as well. And so you've learned so many different modalities and ways kind of in. And I think that this, like what you spoke to, the pain point marketing and speaking from that sort of trauma space. I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about that, just to help those that are listening to this identify what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when we're operating from that place, we're so well intentioned, and we're like plugging it into ChatGPT and we're like, help me write this thing. And then it's just the robot makes it worse. And, and it's like less and less of us gets to step forward, and the heartbeat gets stripped of it. And, but I want to really lovingly hold that with those that are listening to this so that they can help themselves identify and then source from a different place within that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps hasn't been really spoken about very much in their educational journey, in learning how to put their magic forward.
Okay. So what I'm about to describe may sound interesting or strange, and I wish I could remember the woman who created this map, and I will go back so we can put it in the show notes so that I can give credit where credit is due. I took a class last year called Stepping Out of the Trauma Field, and it overlaps a bit with family constellation work, which is this idea that we can step into the energy of a representative, or we can play a representative where when we step into that energy, our body might take form of hunched over or upright, and songs might come to us, or information might come, and things come through that aren't necessarily to us and our personality. And so this woman made a map that she would put your core trauma on, say, like the lower right-hand corner, your trauma strategy on the lower left hand, and then on the upper right hand would be core essence, and then core self on the upper left hand. If this is making sense.
Here, yeah.
Okay, and then truth is in the middle.
Okay.
And everything that is on the upper part of the sheet is considered your generative field. And this is a place where you're not creating from a place of survival strategy, but from a place that just feels more in line with abundance, with nuance, with choice. It would go in the range of regulation, which we can talk about later. And the things in the trauma field would be more of like, these things help me survive. So our very first class, we were partnered up and we were asked to write on 2 pieces of paper, trauma field and generative field. I was really sure that when I stepped on the piece of paper that said trauma field, that I would, if it worked for me at all, I would like buckle over and feel extreme exhaustion. I was very sure I would go into a postpartum experience. And I was very surprised that what happened instead was that as I was standing there, not suddenly, but my knees began to lock out. I got very upright. My chest lifted up high, and I was in this very proud position. And my gaze was forward and so focused, and it felt really good. And it reminded me of when I used to teach yoga, my chest would be very lifted. And energetically, what that does is it puts energy up and outward. So if you think about when people are on stage and they have the mic, it's not unusual that they're trying to lift the energy in the room, and it's this upward, upward, upward. And the energy tends to go out, but it doesn't always come back in. So it's not regenerative.
Yes.
My focus was so straight on. And I said to my partner who was observing me, I was like, oh, this feels so good. So the adrenaline and the high focus felt so familiar. It reminded me of my younger self before the postpartum, before the exhaustion. And I didn't want to step out of it. And what the woman guiding this course said is that it's not unusual that when you go into the trauma field, because it includes your strategy, that it can have a feeling of you don't want to leave it behind because it has created some beautiful things in your life.
Yeah.
So I was really hesitant to step out. And I stepped into the generative field. And what happened was that my knees bent a little bit. which gives a feeling of buoyancy, and it's less effort, right? It's less effort to stay in neutral. And then suddenly, or easily, my head started looking around and I saw all the trees. I saw my garden out in front of me. And instead of being in this place of it's all on me and I got this and I'm awesome because I'm going to figure it all out and I'm going to, I was like, whoa, I am a small piece of a much bigger, more beautiful thing. And I'm a part of this, and it's here in support of the mission, whatever the mission is, whatever the thing moving through me, the dream that's in me. And feeling a part of something bigger is such a relief. And the energy went from upward to this, again, regenerative, this cyclical. So physiologically, what can happen is that when our ribs pop up, it can use more adrenaline, and it is an outward energy. When the ribs come down to neutral, it's where the breath can be a little bit more horizontal and full, and it tends to be more sustainable. And so, like, what would it mean when I'm presenting to have that place where I'm both grounded and connected upwards?
Yeah.
Where I don't think it's on me to lift the whole room,
Right.
but that I'm a part of a bigger field.
Right.
And so this is the place that I'm curious about inhabiting more. So I get to say, wow, the other place feels so good, but I didn't lose my focus. Like when I stepped into the generative field, I didn't suddenly go, I have no drive. I have no ambition. Our friend Amanal Tai just had a book come out and she said, ambition is neutral and it's the desire for more life. It's only when we're in the loop where it's ambition at all costs. And so the generative field to me is a place where we are part of a web of life and we get to really receive and see like what our gifts bring at the same time.
So beautiful. And I know that posture so well.
Me too. And it's it hurts my back over some time too. I just like that upright. It's like, oh, that really actually puts a lot of pressure on my lower back. And when I can bend my knees and let my ribs come down a little bit and have a little less of what is often thought to be like the perfect posture, how much more relaxing it is to my system.
Yeah, wow. I love the way you brought that into the body. And so then I think about the sort of move from there is paying attention to these aspects of ourselves and paying attention through the lens of what you just described, because I think everybody listening to this can probably relate. You know, a lot of us here really relate to that. You know, I can hold the world, posturing and energetic, and also feeling of reality. And I think when we then take our businesses, there's such an enormous amount of pressure that we usually self-inflict in terms of what has to happen with the outcome and all of this. And so then you go into a launch or you go into a sales conversation, you go to a live event, whatever it is, right? And you go in with that posture and you are selling from savior. You are selling from, you know, this thing has to be the thing that solves all of your worldly problems. And I've got the whole thing. And, you know, also because if you're a teacher here, probably like all of your spiritual problems too.
Yes.
And it's just, it's so much,
It's
you know,
so much.
It's so much. It's too much to hold. And ultimately doesn't yield the outcomes typically, you know, that you really have in your consciousness and your awareness and in your spirit when you're conceiving the thing that you're putting forward.
Yeah.
So I really like that you kind of walked us through this process. And I think if we take it down to the simplest practice, I'd love just to hear how you, when you sit down to write your newsletter or to put a post up or something like that, where it's like sort of episodic, it's like the one thing rather than the whole thing. How do you, what's your come from with that? Because I hear from so many people so often, like, I try to sit down and I try to write, but nothing comes. And I feel, and I get this vision in my head of them just like going so fast and wanting to say the right thing and but it's coming from that place of like putting the pressure on self. I cherish your emails. I really I save them because I want to read them if I can't in the moment when I get it. I think you have a really powerful practice with it. So how do you approach that specifically? Because I feel like that's a I like to be specific for people, especially with the type of work that you do to bring people into actual practice.
Ooh, this is tough for me because I have received the messaging for so long that consistency is the most important thing. And there was a 3-year period where I didn't write at all after Sienna was born. I didn't feel inspiration. I was just kind of making it through life. And right now, a lot of inspiration is running through me. And so there are a lot of ideas where I'm like, ooh, what about this? What about this? I tried to record a podcast on the way here, just like headphones in. The audio is not going to be good enough, but it's just like, oh, these ideas are popping through. So I get to write them down. And I will say that one thing that used to hold me back was that I am an editor. So I write down the idea. Things really make sense in my head, but then I wonder, how can I translate this into something that others will also understand without it also just being, this is from my heart. So I'll edit and I'll edit. And it used to take me so long to get it out. So I will say that I do like put down the ideas, I write it out, I ask AI, and I do get some help there. And then I take it back into my heart. And then I play again. Is this true? Does this feel like me? Is there a story that isn't being said here that's personal? Is there a moment that I can feel into more? And so that has helped me. And then with Instagram, it's been something that I have always thought I should do that, but I haven't ever really been able to. I never have, right? Like I haven't. And so what I'm getting right now is layers of support. And I don't know if this is really your question, but my aunt's niece on the other side just graduated from college, and she is this amazing woman. And I said, like, hey, if I give you my newsletter and I give you some ideas, can you help me? And having someone, I want to talk about this idea of where I've always gone, preparation is all on me. And then when I go into presenting, I'm like, oh, I'm in co-creation. I'm starting to be in the preparation mode and really feeling co-creation here too. So having somebody start to put together a carousel and start to use Canva and all the things where I'm like, wait, Insta is supposed to be fast. And then I get to go in and go, is that the picture I would want to use? And then I get to switch out some things. And she's pulling from my writing. Does that feel true in this context? And then I get to change verbiage, but just having somebody pull something when I have literally hundreds of thousands of hours of things that I have taught can feel so overwhelming. So to have somebody take pieces and then I get to refine it, I'm loving this process of like, oh, it doesn't have to be all on me. And co-creating with another woman has been so liberating and freeing. And I also feel like I really let go on like the checking on how many likes, it's more like I look at it and I go, this is a really beautiful piece of art that feels true. And somebody helped to take something from my heart and give it a visual. And I am so grateful for that, because without her, it would be like, oh, it's too much. I don't know how to do it. And so having layers of support where somebody else's genius, somebody else's passion gets to weave in. And I don't love micromanaging, and this doesn't feel like that. It just feels more like, and I get to tune in, I get to edit until it's like, oh, there's my heart. It's still there. There's my truth. And I may have gone off topic from where we were, but yeah, with my newsletters and Instagram now, it starts with what's inspiring me now, what's true now. Yeah, the newsletters are all me. And then Instagram is things that I've put out in my podcast, things that have come out on my newsletter, and having help.
I love it. I love it. Well, and I think also, we've probably even talked about this on a past podcast conversation, but like the allowing oneself to receive help. It's a different posture.
My God. I have been doing this thing I think it's called Values Rising with Tel Darden, who's been a mentor and friend of mine for a while. And as I look through all of the stories of peak moments in my life, a lot of them have to do with massive preparation, followed by what is so important to me is that when I am in a guiding role within a space, that I feel a co-creatorship, both with a wiser wisdom, with a wiser intelligence, and the people in the room, which is why I love doing embodied, like people do an embodied experience and get to have the wisdom move through them and through their body and their lens. And it became really clear as I was looking at it, oh, why do I have to wait until that moment to feel the channeling? Like, why does the preparation have to be so white knuckles? Do the research. I'm on my own. Nobody sees the world the same way as I do. And I'm going to have to like instead of, ooh, and what can I let go of? A big practice during this launch of opting out of urgency is to see where I've lost my agency within the urge. And and then asking where can I bring it back. And I've also recognized over and over again that the more I step out of that first energy I talked to you about like, I'm so focused and I have this to-do list and I'm going to get it done, to I'm going to go do a breath work practice. I'm going to jump into the ocean. I'm going to hang out with a friend on a day that it does not seem like it makes sense to hang out with a friend. What seemed like emotional constipation. I don't know what to write on the newsletter. I don't know how to write this copy. It all loosens and opens up because as my state changes, my interpretation of the world changes, and the creativity that runs through me changes.
Yes. That's it right there.
That's it.
That's the piece right there. The unstuck path. Mm-hmm.
It's been so liberating. I just, sometimes when you run a course, if that becomes my mantra, opting out of urgency, I get to see all the ways it shows up. And I also get to see the health in having something that's time bound.
Yeah.
Because when I was at Laura Sprinkle's event, I was on the phone with Generosity Opi and I was like, I have 17 pieces of copy to write. I have 20 podcasts to do. I should not be at this retreat, but I really want to support Laura. And she said, well, you get to choose. Do you want to change your launch date? And so many other times I've realized I'm creating my own reality.
Right.
I can totally change and I was like, no, I really want this date. I really want this to be the beginning of the school year where a woman can say, I want to choose an educational and experiential point for myself. And I want it to be preparation before the holidays. And that night I woke up at 1:30 in the morning in this dorm room. My friend was going to be teaching a 5 a.m. yoga class. So I didn't want to wake her up. And I'm, doing all these things to calm my nervous system so I can go back to sleep. And by 2:30, I go, oh, this energy doesn't want to be calm. It wants to be activated. It needs a place to go. So I get up and I go into my car. It's raining out. I have my journal. Another beautiful part about getting away from the computer, pen in hand, journal, no internet connection. And just urgency. I'm feeling urgency while creating a program called Opting Out of Urgency.
Hilarious.
And getting to go. And then I'm like in the middle of the night, like, is this genius or is this delusional thinking? I'm like, urgency, agency, emergency. What if I took the gency out of emergency and then you just have emerge? What if you took the gency out of urge or the CY? Oh, to have an impulse. But then what is the beauty of having something that has time constraint? It's like crystallizing. It's the tapas in yoga, the refining. And so again, this led me to showing up at Laura's event and saying, do you mind if I, would it be harmful to any of your programming if I step out? She's like, no, but if you can lead us in a grounding first. And so I lead her in the grounding or the crew. And then I feel a little better. And I go into a yurt and I start writing and I start to feel a little creative constipation. And someone comes in, is there a yoga mat in here? We're about to do breath work. I'm like, oh, I'll join for that. We do breath work. Then we go skinny dipping. And again, I'm like, oh, the things that felt undoable are totally exciting again. I go back and I write from this new inspired place. And then I go and I have communal dinner. And anyway, within the urgency, I found agency, I found choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that the time constraint is clarifying.
Yeah.
So I get to see, okay, I'm going to let go of these things. I'm going to say no to these things and yes to these things. And I'm going to say yes to my pleasure and yes to my body and yes to community. But I also see this devotion that I have. Is this making sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So I get to say, like, urgency doesn't have to be all shamed.
Right.
There gets to be some light to it. But for me that night, I was like, oh, urgency with agency. There's something
rad.
to it.
It's really rad. I love that so much. Talk to us about what is happening in this launch and give me the state of the state, in terms of like, what are we doing? Like, tell us everything. Because now we're all excited and we want to go, skinny dipping with you in this. Yes.
Oh my God. Skinny dipping. Okay. So this is my first affiliate launch. I just want to kind of like give it real and give it as it is.
Yeah. So it's the first time you're like really letting the village share in this, bringing forth the wisdom and the modalities and the magic that is what you teach.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was this part of like, wait, the 3-day free workshop, what will it be? And at first it was going to be suppression to expression, which I actually think is really massive in the nervous system world and often overlooked as we, I think, over highlight calm as opposed to also like, how do we let out the other energy? But it wasn't fully landing because I thought with a bunch of people I don't know, does this feel safe enough? It's not all about safety, but does this feel? And I started leaning into just this awe of the possibilities when we can put this little wedge in a moment to question the loop we're in. Is it 100% true?
I love it.
Because as you named, when we're in a launch and when we're in other things where we go, this is true, this is scary, this is real, and it can feel insulting and condescending for anyone to tell you otherwise. When we start to look at, there's a nervous system map that I love where it shows that there's this range of resonance where we can say in our range of resonance, we have choice, we have the ability to pause, we can have healthy fast, we can have healthy slow, we can live in the unknown. Like you were saying with this podcast, like, what are we even going to talk about? We get to be in the mystery.
Yeah.
So we have capacity for the mystery versus I need an answer. And as we move outside of it, we tend to go into familiar patterns of either freezing or feeling overwhelmed and incapacitated, or into possibly chronic flight, or the one that I'm really interested in is the global high intensity activation, which is the place of hustle culture. It's the place of the chronic ambition without questioning. It's the place that I felt when I stepped into my trauma field of like, wow, I get so many compliments about how I pushed through as an athlete, about how tenacious I was, how I overrode my pain, how, this idea of like actually overriding your suffering as opposed to tuning in and choosing. And so then I say, what are the small pieces where we get to move back into choice to be in a place where the choices are aligned with present time reality of coming home to ourselves, right? That homeward bound aspect. So day 1 is about pacing.
Yep.
So resonant pacing. How do we pace in a place that we are in that range of resonance?
Beauty.
Day 2 is about the double binds and sacred thirds. So a double bind would be, I must sell 100 seats. I can't sell 100 seats because I don't have enough people on my list, or I don't have a marketing team, or it's this I must, I can't, and they feel so real.
Yeah.
So as we work in opting out of urgency, we can begin to see, how can I attune to my body, do something that feels like a resource to my body? Because as we change our state, how we see the world changes. As the way we see the world changes, suddenly a sacred third will appear. Sometimes the sacred third is a clear answer, a clear third. Sometimes it's just one step in a new direction. And your answer isn't there yet, but it's just the ability to take one step in a direction that is a 1 degree change from any step you've taken before. So day 2 is about the sacred third. And day 3 is about the relational aspect that happens when, we're able to slow down enough to notice an old pattern, to see that we have an impulse or a desire, to build the resources to name that desire to somebody that we've had this unspoken contract with. So for me, can be my husband. And there was a time where I woke up thinking that, like, since I was 24, I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to have a midlife crisis and always like, is this real? Is this true? And I remember looking in the mirror going, oh my God, who am I? How did I land in this house?
Yeah.
How did this happen to me?
Yeah.
And not because it was the wrong house, but just, did I choose these things? And as I was in a state of exhaustion, kind of being like, yeah, whatever you want, or yeah, I'll go to that thing, even though I don't really want to go to that thing. And so as I begin to find myself a little bit more resourced and tuning into some of these tools, the ability to say, I don't want to go to that thing. And what feels like a brick wall first before a bridge, when I start to really own who I am and what I desire, and come into relationships that are a truer form, that generally the person who's been in that relationship may have gained from, to see, like, will they meet me in this new truth or not? But either way, I'm going to speak for this new truth. And so that place between familiar and our new optimal can feel like abandonment at a cellular level. It can feel isolating. It can feel like, is anyone going to meet me on the dance floor in this new reality? And so we build the resilience to be able to stay in the unknown long enough until at a cellular level, new ligands start to meet our receptor cells. And eventually on the outside world, new people, new situations, new scenarios will meet us in the new field that we're meeting. And so for me, it takes opting out of these loops that feel time bound and rushed. They feel life threatening. They feel like income, family, relationships, safety.
Yep.
And in the body, it feels really real. But as we work with nervous system and we work with body, we get to pause enough to question the reality and start to take tiny steps towards a new reality. And I will say that I'm also really inspired by you. Someone near and dear to me took one of your free webinars. And so what's meaningful to me in offering this free thing, that is an opportunity for all of my affiliates, people to say, do I like her? Am I into this thing? Is this a match? One is the freedom that people get to experience me before signing up for something. So once they get there to like, oh, this isn't for me.
Yeah,
It's
so
like,
important.
they get to have a feel ahead of time so they don't feel trapped in something. The other thing I feel so excited about is that there are some people who may not be able to afford the whole program right now. And so the thought of offering something that feels so complete, that could be life enhancing, that it's the 3 days will not be, I'm going to keep these secrets to myself. And if you buy the whole thing, then it's
you
like,
get it.
Yeah, it's like, no, you get it.
You get it. Right.
The 12-week program is going to have daily meditations that come to your inbox. That's both video, audio, and a write-up. And people seem to really love those. I was afraid it would be too much, but people really love the way it weaves the weeks together. So of course it's more in depth, but these 3 days, I'm not sure I've ever felt more aligned, more clear. And I was actually leaving a voice memo, a Voxer for Rachel on the way here. And I found myself in tears just going like, oh my God, it's been such a long time of being in the fertile void and being in the place of curiosity before the clarity.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy to be here. And I know that this doesn't stay forever, and it shouldn't.
Yeah.
A mentor of mine will say, we stay in clarity too long, we calcify.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But to get to be in this place right now where I'm like, oh my God, this is the juice.
Yeah.
Like, this is where transmutation and liberation come. And for the last year or two, when people say, what lights you up? And I just keep thinking the liberation of women. And this is, I think, where we find our voices, when we first find our truth, and when we get to feel the slightest bit safe in our bodies.
And knowing how to even do that.
Yeah.
You're the master at opening the doorway for that. Yeah. I loved what you said about the wedge. Putting a little wedge in there in the loop, the little baby pause to really look and see. And I feel like, micro, macro, right? We're really needing a pause. Yeah.
I'm trying to think the first time. I don't know why I have Elena Brower in my mind, so I don't know if it's true, but I'll just call her energy into this room and into this space. She has been such a living example of opting out of urgency.
Yes.
And when she came to present at Leverage Events years ago, her plane was rerouted. So New York to Portland should take about 45 minutes.
Right.
I was like, oh, this will be so much faster than driving. And it was delayed. And then they landed in Burlington, Vermont.
It's not that helpful.
Took like 5 hours to decide if they were going to have the parts to fix the plane. And then they put them on a bus and drove 5 hours from Burlington to Portland.
Oh my.
And she was just like, oh, I get this time to spend with James, her partner.
Yeah.
I'm just foraging for some crudité in the airport. I'm meditating. I'm getting time to sit in silence and think about what I'll present tomorrow. And,
what a teaching.
She was just the whole weekend so present. And so when I think about that wedge, I'm also thinking, I was like, was she the one? Is that the reason why she's coming to my mind is when we think about a breath practice, it's often like taking that breath and putting the smallest wedge. And so when I think of a wedge, it kind of goes in between one moment and another, and then you open it up a little bit and you can peek through long enough to interrupt a loop.
I love it.
And we may still choose our old loop, but just the fact that we noticed a loop is a really beautiful first step.
So good. So when is this happening?
This is happening September 16th, 18th, and 19th. Yeah. I'm giving myself that one day in between to kind of land after the first
it's perfect
exposure, regroup, refocus, and man, I'm just really excited. And I don't know if I finished my thought of just how grateful I was to see my dear friend who took your course be so inspired and to have the access to you. So that, of course, we have our paid offerings, but also to have, say, this podcast and different opportunities online to offer something meaningful. Yeah. That could really affect somebody's life. And again, not as like a savior thing, but just like, oh, here's this thing. Yeah. That I'm so passionate about. And I wonder how it would overlap with your life. Is it a match? Yeah. Yeah. I think I left you a voice memo like in tears that day.
It was so beautiful. Yeah. I was so grateful to receive it. And, because you don't know, there's no way you could know, you just got to trust the thing and you got to move with it.
I think you said this is the whole point.
It's literally the whole point. People say to me, how many downloads do you have and all these? I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah. It's like, oh, I don't know. I was looking at my Libsyn recently with Ani just because I thought it would be cool to show her that. She was like, Mom, people we were just looking at the map. Like 80 countries listen to this podcast. She's like, 3 people in Chile listen to you. I was like, is that crazy? Look at that. She's like, all these people in Brazil. I'm like, hi, Brazilians, I love you. there's no way that the human mind can conceptualize of that.
Yeah.
What I can conceptualize of and with is heart to heart connection and speaking a language that transcends timelines and continents and lifetimes and all of that. The same way that all of my favorite teachers have offered so generously what they've learned along the way and then given that back. And so it's sort of like, it's our turn.
And for me, again, it takes the urgency out of the free course, right?
Yeah.
So of course, like how great if this leads to people who are like, oh my gosh, I want to take the full course.
Yeah.
But if I remember, which I do, I tune back to the feeling I had when one of my favorite people tuned into you.
Yeah.
And I go, wow. And this tunes me into one of Ray Castellino's first principles, which is welcome as you are. So it's welcome as you are, the one who's coming, who knows you're not going to buy the course. Welcome. I want you here.
Please
I'm so happy you're
Please
here.
come.
Please come.
That is the whole point. And the thing about, and I think this is important to speak to here for everybody, because there are a lot of people listening to this who are doing courses and doing launches, or at least dreaming into that, have offers. I talk about this all day with people. Business is relational, right? That's the point. And relationships require intimacy and time and connection. And sometimes it can be a spark like that. It's so fun when you find a teacher when you're like, whoa, and you're like in, there's like, talk about an adrenaline rush. But sometimes that can also come from the place of that trauma space of like, save me, and so you really have to check yourself. And I've certainly made those buys in the past. I've hired people in the past, like have done that, have all the t-shirts, learned all the lessons. It's great. And I've had clients who've done that, with me, and it's like, it's okay. We're all learning.
Totally.
But what I know, and it's funny because I know my community so intimately. They're not like super impulsy. They can be, but then when we talk, it's like I'm like encouraging them to pump the brakes, especially if they have emotional authority in human design, which I'm always asking that. I will say to them, you have to let yourself have your wave. Go through your wave. Let it come to the peak. Like I'm like, listen, we're going to get off this call and you're going to be lit.
Yes.
You're going to be like, this is it. I'm all in. And then you're going to crash and you're going to say, what was I thinking? I'm such a crazy person. This is so dumb. Oh my God, I'm going to put my family in ruin if I do this. And then the truth is going to emerge. And then you'll know what your answer is. And it might be no. It might be yes. I don't know. You don't know. We don't know that right now. But what I want you to know is that you have the time to be with this decision. And I think that is not taught, in business. It's like, get their credit card on the phone. I mean, could you even imagine? No friggin' way.
I don't want Never. That. Because then also think of the energy in your course. That
my gosh.
The people there are like, I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I want my money back.
No.
It's just like,
no.
That's not the vibe I want anyway.
That's not the vibe. No. But I'm saying, I do think that there's this like subconscious weird shame loop that happens for people when they trust what we're talking about here and they exhale into the moment and they allow people to be sovereign beings, this is the Sovereign Business Podcast, which allows people to be sovereign in their choosing what is right and best for them. And what I find is when you give people all of that agency and all of that authority over their own journey, they are like the biggest fans, and they're coming to it, like you said, as a lifelong learner, ready to add more to their own personal mix into their work. And what I think is so special about your work is you are equipping them with teachings and learnings that they're going to somatically integrate into their person, into their soma, into their everyday life, their motherhood, how they show up in their marriage, their partnerships, their business, their health, all this. And there's no way that doesn't then go forth and impact their work in the world.
I was nervous about asking. A friend of mine took the course last year. And so I got feedback from other people who are in resource, but there's something about asking a friend because I'm like, oh, I don't want her to be. So her feedback was, yeah, I was not in crisis when I took this, so I wasn't taking it to be fixed. And this is one of the only courses that I have ever finished, like online courses, right? She finishes all her things, but like an online course that I actually then even went back afterwards. And if I couldn't be there for the live, I loved going back for the recordings, and that there were these topics that you've been in for 25 years that you make so simple and applicable. And she said, I take it into my breath work. I take it into my motherhood, and I can feel the ways that it weaves so effortlessly. And another woman, when I asked if she had any feedback, she just wrote, I am now able, like more often than ever, to tune into my body, to see what is true for me, and to actually trust my inner wisdom.
Beauty.
So they're not trusting my truth,
Correct.
right? They're tuning into how does this integrate with me, with my work. And another woman was talking about, she's like, my partner was like, wow, I can really tell that this work is working because of the way that she was responding to some interactions. And she was responding in a way where there was a little bit more space.
Yeah. Yeah.
To question the loop.
Yeah.
To resource herself. And so I love hearing these stories of how either it's playing into family, parenting, relationships, work. And it's stuff that I actually would never know if I don't also sometimes ask.
Yes.
Like, because otherwise I'm like teaching into a screen. And so it's fun to hear back the ways that it integrates for people.
I'm hearing the word playbook in my head. It's like you're helping people sort of edit their playbook and have, so like use that. P.S. Edit their playbook for life, and, I think about this right now because I'm being invited into my regulation practices very regularly with a 3-year-old toddler right now, boy, who is, as you just experienced before we hit record, a lot of big energy and a lot of will and a lot of fire. He's an Aries rising and he's a Pisces. So he's just like very emotional and it's so beautiful. Like he just can feel everything and I watch him feel everything. And then he's got a lot of fire and a lot of like kind of, wants to lean in. And there are times I want to lean in back, admittedly, where I want to be like, bro, like, let me just bottom line this for you. And he's like very physical too.
Yeah.
So he's like, he almost like pulled me over today because I wouldn't let him have the toothpaste, like spraying it all over the bathroom. And it's like, there's a moment where my athlete, when my body gets triggered like that, like has a response.
Totally.
And so I'm having to really like meet that. And my first reaction was like, hey, like you can't do that to me. But then I got down on his level and was like, and he like pieced out of the room, wasn't into it, but I like brought myself down into his space and also like inside of myself and like rooted down and was like, okay. And it's just needed, right? It's like knowing how to navigate what's happening with our innate responses, with all of this programming that's come through and how all of this connects to us and then shows up in our everyday life in the kitchen when like the smallest thing happens, but yet it just feels like a nuclear bomb went off. Yeah. Right. And I know that is what you teach. And I also love the way you teach it because you share your own personal experiences of how you're not, always like namaste, even though like you present like that and you move through the world mostly like that. Yeah. Like I love that you bring in the moments when like the bomb has detonated and it is, real life.
Can I speak to that for a
Please,
moment? So
yes.
Last year, the resource course was for mothers. This year, it's open to women and those who are socialized as women. So I have a child who is like, she's so sensitive, right? She's so empathetic and she's not soft, right? Like she's soft in moments, but she'll give the fight right back. And sometimes I think she's fighting just to fight. So what happened for me, because my fight has mostly been frozen unless I'm on the field. And I think this is why athletics is so important because it gives us a fight outlet where we get to steal.
That's why I still
ball,
play
literally
every week.
and we get to box
My
somebody
Monday
out.
night is my holy,
like
people
your
are like, I'm so glad you
physical
do that for yourself.
boundaries.
I'm like, yes, you are.
Yes,
so glad I
you
do that for
are.
myself
Yes.
because I can hit
Yes.
body to body.
Yes.
I can, I sweat. It's like
Yes.
such a, and it's so many times where I'm frustrated and struggling. And it's like, thank God I have soccer tonight.
So our bodies need this.
Yeah.
And my teacher, Bridget Vixens, once asked me, what do you have for a fight outlet? And
I
was like,
love
I
that.
don't think I.
Let's pause for a second.
Okay.
Everybody, what do you have for a fight outlet? We'll let you keep going, but I want that question because I would sense some people are saying, yeah, I'm talking to my husband in the kitchen and getting stressed out about bills. Like maybe we got to talk about the arenas where this outlet exists.
Right. So in those situations, it would be what's called stacking. So when you said something small happens in the kitchen and suddenly a bomb goes off, that's generally because there's stacking in the body. So having a fight outlet, like when you go to soccer and you've had room to like push someone aside, right? Like you can't push your 3-year-old.
No,
you don't want to
There's
push your 3-year-old down,
nowhere
right?
in your life, guys, can we say where you can like legally and safely push a person.
Right.
Other than like in an athletic arena.
Right.
Yes.
And so our ancestors, I would say almost whatever ancestry you have, there were times, I'm trying to think in all different places in the world, and I can't imagine this not being true, where there were bonfires and there were drums and there was the like hard rhythmic dancing of feet against the earth and there were guttural sounds and there are big movements and that was part of the processing and there were games that were there to prepare for war, right? But they're games and when you watch animals, you see them
fight.
tuffle with each
all
other
the time. Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Sarah Jenks's house, I think it was 2 years ago now, and I call it a ceremony of sacred feminine rage. She called it something else. And there was a fire and there was a drum and she was purposely taunting people. And there was room to just like make all the sounds and moan and scream. And at some point I'm like on the ground on all fours
roaring. Yes.
looking at her eye to eye across the fire and just staring each other down with such intensity. And neither of us are breaking the gaze. And like there was something so primal in it.
Yeah.
So I go home and I have now had the outlet for myself. And because I got to feel it in myself, because when Bridget asked me about the fight outlet, I was like, I don't think I have that urge. My fight was frozen. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
When a fight is frozen, it's actually still stacking. So it is going to come out sideways in the kitchen with your husband, right?
Yep. Yep.
So she recommended, we'd go outside and take a stick and hit it against a tree that's already down. And it did feel so good. But this other thing that I did with Sarah helped me to feel a side of myself that was so suppressed. I didn't know it was there. I didn't know I needed it. I didn't know it would be such a relief. And so I go home and one of my older daughter is really taunting my younger daughter. And my younger daughter, who sometimes also likes to play into the, I'm being so good, right? Like if Sophia's acting up, then Sienna will sometimes take the exact opposite as the
prod.
The little prod.
Yeah.
So Sienna's like, I just love you. And then Sophia's like, and then suddenly I get on the floor and I'm like, you want to fight? And I'm on all fours and I'm not getting my fight outlet through Sophia, right?
Right.
But she just like looks at me back because she's a Leo and she's got this like wicked lion energy. And she just like, we just wrestle and then we're laughing. And I realize we have more pillow fights now.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget about the physical outlet. And so often I'm like, how do I calm my girls down so they stop picking on each other?
No.
So I'm like, oh,
fire them. Yeah.
They need place. They're such artists.
Yeah, mine too.
They like being out in the wild. They like being, but as girls, they're not on a lot of sports teams yet. They don't have a lot of fight. And so when they get to physically rumble with myself or with my husband.
Word, rumble. Let's rumble.
Let's rumble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they love it and they want it. And here's the thing. When we are using methods that help us to tolerate a situation,
yeah,
our kids feel it.
Yep.
They feel that we're dysregulated and we're trying to stay calm with them.
Right.
And I'd like to honor that as being okay. And when I talk about the generative field, when I pillow fight or dance in the rain, one of our favorite things to do, I often don't want to do it, right? Until I'm doing it.
Until you're actually, I mean, I
It's
think
like
that about
working
soccer
out.
too.
Yeah.
It's like when, especially on a rainy game day,
Or
you're like, oh God, I don't want to put my, it's going to be
7 o'clock at night and the girls are like, do you want to wrestle?
so tired.
I'm too tired.
But the second you get in and you just, there's something, you cross a threshold.
The generative field.
Yeah, that's
so
it.
What happens instead of using your energy to tolerate something, you start generating energy as the energy. It's a creative.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know what the next move is that Sophia is going to make. And I don't know how the pillow is going to land. And the rules are basically like they can pillow fight me, but because there's a 4-year gap, not one another right now.
Right.
Right. And there's just so much laughter. And there's also a lot of this. Right.
Yes.
So my girls have a place. And I'll also say that I got an email like 6 months ago and something in it was quite triggering for me. So I do all my nervous system tricks for the vagus nerve to calm myself down. But the story was still ruminating. And so every time I calm myself down, if the energy starts ruminating again, I at some point go, oh, this needs to move. It doesn't, I'm suppressing. I'm using nervous system work to suppress. This has been like my big aha over the last 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Is how do we use the nervous system work to express and move, not just to suppress and calm. So Sophia's there. And I don't want to use a fight outlet that's going to scare her. So we just, she's seeing me do all the things. So like, can I put my hands on my heart? Can I breathe? And then what I do instead is I turn on the music. And it's like music that's kind of, it's up. And I start throwing my fists and just letting my hair go and like making again the And she's like, you can see she's kind of into it and she's curious. So she's not scared by it. And then I get this beautiful release of just energy often needs to move. Emotions don't always need to be psychologized. Sometimes they just want to emote. Right?
Right.
I could say, I know it's super cliche, like emotion, like energy and motion. The thoughts and the stories come after the physiology generally.
Right.
So when we get to, again, change our state, the way we see the challenge also changes. It was so beautiful because then I won't have to tell the whole story, but it really helped me give space, decide what was my next right step. But it was such a beautiful release. I just keep finding over and over again the ability to differentiate between this is a time to use the nervous system tool to regulate, to calm, and this is a time for expression. And what are the healthy outlets?
I love it. I just heard the words, who you are in your body is who you are in your business.
Tagline.
So take it.
I would also say to you, when you said this is a sovereign business podcast, I was like, that is an epic name. Not for me. And I know you already have a...
Yeah, well, that's what the tagline. That's the tagline of this podcast. I should have said that at the beginning, but I forgot.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yes, everything that I'm about is this sovereign business thing now. And really, because obviously, yet if we don't name that, I think that we still stay in these sort of like, I just get a visual of like the lines of people like following. And it's sort of like, no, you've always been doing it your way. And so this is so exciting, and to be a friend who's been a part of your journey and a cheerleader and, just, I've always known, the depth of your magic and what you offer and also how like offbeat and cool and, it's just so different. Like what you bring is so different from anybody else. It's like someone I'm working with said to me, I don't know any other poet business mentors. And I was like, cool. I don't know how to be anything other than that because that's what I am. Yeah. And so how amazing, right? That you've stayed so true to yourself and you're being her. And now you're sharing it with Resourced and with the challenge. What is the name of the challenge?
Opting out of urgency.
Opting out of urgency. So where do people sign up for the challenge? Because,
Yeah. So if we can put it in your link.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you something for that. So it would be on my website, but actually ideally doing it through your podcast link.
Yeah, we will do that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, you guys. So show notes, sign up for opting out of urgency. Starts on September 16th.
Yes.
2025, 10 days after my birthday. So it's September, such a magical time.
Yes.
Virgo season.
Yes.
Dial it in.
Yes.
And receive, really going into the portal with Sarah. It's going to be a real experience. I'll be there, front row seat.
Oh my God.
So excited.
When you said receive, you were looking right at me. And it's such a good reminder for me to receive while I'm in this portal.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking like, this is my thing. It's my time. I have so much clarity. I have so much. It's like, oh, wait, there's so much to receive, which I already am receiving so much, even just having this conversation with you. And I know that by these lines that we are like coming to an end here. And I want to honor that the very first time I met you, I was in a state of deep grief.
I remember. Yeah.
And you still saw me so clearly. Yeah. You kind of like pulled me aside and you said, I see you. And I was somewhat like trying to stay to myself in this specific gathering. That
was a hard gathering to be in.
That was a hard gathering.
It was a hard gathering.
And so I appreciate the way that you have been so steady. And I know that we've, in many ways been at a distance to each other's work, but also I feel like through the heart, just very clear.
Yeah. Truly. What a gift.
Yeah. Thanks for being you. I love you too.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And sitting on this couch and just doing this. Look at us. Yay. So fun. All right, you guys. Sarah, Tacy, you got this. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm here for it all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you too.